I am so fucking heartbroken. I recorded this whole video minus Pisces. My camera started overheating, so I was like, okay, I'll stop the recording now and go film this later. And none of the recording saved, and then the bottom of my camera fell off. Anyway, we're just gonna redo it again. These are what the Venus sign aesthetics are in astrology. So if you're like me and you're petty and you're materialistic and you like looking at celebrities and their style and you're curious about what their Venus signs are, we're gonna run through the aesthetics of the Venus signs and what your aesthetic might be if you have your Venus in a particular sign. So this is not meant to tell you how to dress. I don't give a fuck. It's not meant to tell you that you're dressing wrong if you don't resonate with this. I'm sure my comments will be full of every person in the world who doesn't resonate and none of the people, 99% people who do. So if you're new, I would recommend pulling up your chart and seeing what sign your Venus is in astrology and then comparing to some of the things I say. If you want to comment down below your thoughts around what Venus placements mean or like what you're used to seeing with these Venus signs, would love to see your perspective. Probably gonna have to do this in multiple takes so my camera does not overheat. So if you see me change or look different, might have to be doing this at different parts of the day, especially because I'm about to be late to head out to things, so I have to do this another day. But we're gonna start out when I am in a very Venus and Leo outfit. This is so fire. We're gonna show this. We're gonna show the fit check initially. So fuck the watch time that's dropping off now. This is necessary for this. This outfit is from Finesse Studios. I'm not sponsored. I just like a lot of their clothes. And this is a very long skirt, not very long skirt, sorry. This is like a midi skirt, too big for me. It's far too big. I'm just wearing it for photos that I took earlier. This top, which is like flames and there's a lot of trust in it, but it's very tight, so frankly, it's not gonna go anywhere. And then I'm in the blood heels that just go with any outfit that I have because this is a look. I feel like I'm channeling Ariana Grande with this hair because I never put my hair up, half down. My hair is never up because like I don't like the way that I just like big hair in my face. However, with this video and including Ariana as a Taurus Venus example, I felt a little compelled and I'm kind of into it. So let's get started with Aries Venus. Aries Venus I find is notable for very eye-catching, very striking, very simple clothes. So they're not gonna be the most complicated, they're not gonna be the most intricate, but they're definitely gonna be in your face, gonna be deliberate about what they wear, and often that means bright colors and color blocked pieces. Aries also rules the head and the hair, so Aries tend to have very striking hairstyles, and it's not usually super thick or long necessarily, but it is very, like, it can almost be like kind of androgynous where there's like a short or like a very striking short color because Venus in Aries is the opposite sign to what Venus rules. So it's in its antithesis, which means it can manifest a little paradoxically. So menswear or like a little bit of a more aggressive look is common. A main example of this I think is great is Lady Gaga. I mean, with her meat dress, with the way that she does a lot of her outfits, they're not super, I guess you could say, complicated in the sense of like there's not a huge amount of colors here, colors there, different types of jewelry. They tend to be simple, there's a point to them, they tend to be very structured as well. And she tends to be simple with her makeup most times. It's definitely highlighting her features, but it's not necessarily like the most colorful or most intricate. And Marilyn Monroe is another example of this. So she had pretty simple yet very striking makeup of like dark eyes and a red lip, but nothing that was super smoky or all over the place. She tended to wear things that were definitely very simple, but highlighted her features in a way that was very distinct. She wore like the cone bra kind of thing in multiple cases, and she definitely did not overdo it with super complicated outfits. And I find that that's a very like customary thing with Aries Venus, that they like simplicity. And then Rihanna is another example, and we can have our thoughts about her halftime show. I did think that it looked like sperm running around in COVID suits. However, I think that she in this performance was a great example of her Aries Venus. She wore one color, she wore that red, purple, pinkish bodysuit with that big coat and that bra over it. It was striking, it was simple, and it was nothing that was too frilly. I find a lot of her gowns and a lot of her looks are very, very just striking and very distinct. And she tends to have very structured, very like contoured makeup that is not super colorful or busy. Taurus Venus is a placement that does very well because Venus rules Taurus. And Venus rules both Taurus and Libra, meaning it's very comfortable there. And these people tend to have a very old money, relaxed, mature aesthetic. Even when they're young, they tend to dress very elegantly. They tend to love bodices. And given that Taurus rules the neck and like the décolleté, they tend to wear big necklaces and do a lot that does involve the neck area. And even with like plastic surgery or cosmetic procedures, I find that Taurus Venuses are very aware of wanting to preserve that and look youthful because they are like so elegant. So Ariana Grande is an example of this. I hate that the previous video I did was deleted because I went on a little spiel about like how I love Ariana Grande as a style inspiration, and I don't ever wear my hair like this, but I thought of her in this video and I was like, why not channel it a little bit? She wears, for one, a lot of oversized yet feminine clothing. And this goes back to Taurus Venus being very comfortable, but wanting like an old, mature, not old, but like mature aesthetic. She wears a lot of oversized pieces like sweatshirts with very nice boots. She tends to look very elegant and not messy, and definitely highlights her features and does very like simple, pretty makeup. Lana Del Rey is another example of Taurus Venus. Very similar. There's an elegance, there's an old money aesthetic, and there's not trying to be too against the grain. Like Taurus Venus knows what works and sticks with it. They don't tend to be the most avant-garde or the most risk-taking. They tend to also love gold or earthy neutrals. And then third example is Melania Trump. This was much funnier when I did it the first time and could like reveal it, but Melania Trump, I found, has dressed the same matronly first lady-esque since she was like 16. Like she looked like the fucking first lady when she was 16. So it's not because she was like a president's wife that I think she dressed this way. She has looked very, I don't want to say conservative, but just very elegantly simple and old money-esque for her life. Gemini Venus tends to dress very playful, very colored, and with a lot of accessories. They're kind of like a little kid trying a lot on. And because Gemini rules the arms and the fingers, the bracelets, the rings, even like the tiny tattoos, tend to be very apparent with Gemini placements. And JLo's a great example of this. She wears a lot of bold colors, shows a lot of skin, has a lot of things going on, but it's cute and it doesn't tend to be overwhelming because it's fitted to her body. Her makeup, usually not the busiest, but the jewelry, the accessories definitely highlight her outfit. Megan Fox is another example, and I think she dresses like a woodland nymph a lot of the time. I look at her and I think it looks elfish. I think it looks quite Gemini with the intricacy, and even with her more vampy edge with other placements, all the accessories and the playfulness of the features in her outfits feels very Gemini. Like with Gemini, I think small details in a lot of them. So a lot of her outfits have incredible accessories, very deliberate shoes, very deliberate purse that is not misplaced and is not trying to be the statement, but it's a ton of accessories together. And then Margot Robbie is, I think, one of the more conservative examples of this. I wanted to throw her in there because if you actually look at a lot of her outfits and a lot of her like hair and makeup, it's very slightly different than her other looks or anything else, but it's like she doesn't change that much, but it's very deliberate and very accessorized in a way that feels very like small and particular, and there's definitely a bracelet and ring emphasis. Cancer Venus tends to dress, for one, very comfortable, and two, very moonlight color schemey. Because Cancer is frumpy chic, it is cottagecore. You guys need comfort and you need for it to be very wearable and nothing too intense and nothing that's like, it has to be comfy. You're not gonna wear it, there's no pain, there's no beauty in pain. No, it's all comfy. But with Cancer Venus as well, there's a beautiful moonlight or lunar quality that I feel like the color scheme is often cool, it's often very elegant, and Cancers love their shimmer and their sheen. So a lot of these celebrities I find wear very shimmery, glittery, sheen-like things that highlight this goddess-like quality. And because Cancer rules the boobs and like the chest area, Cancer Venuses often are highlighting that area in some way, and their chest either tends to be very prominent or nothing there. So Angelina Jolie is a great example of this because she has the beautiful, very textured, silky or sparkly gowns. They tend to highlight her chest, and her makeup tends to be very cool toned and very sleek. Definitely the dress and kind of the sheen is the focus. There's not huge accessories or huge playfulness. It's very elegant. I find Zendaya is a great example of this too, because she dresses in these bodicey, long flowing things that often have a very structured top. And she also tends to keep it very elegant, very natural, and I wouldn't say that her looks appear to be uncomfortable, that even if they show a lot of skin, They're clearly wearable, and they always highlight her chest in a very constructed way. It's very Cancerian. And then finally, Khloe Kardashian's an example of this, simply because like I'm using a lot of the Kardashians because I think they're a good cultural example. I am into this kind of stuff. I am basic as fuck. I am like all other girls. I like the way these people look. I deadass like it. I love the way all these, like, for example, like Ariana Grande with all her, I love her cosmetic work. I think I just love the shit. So Khloe's an example because she tends to wear the most textures, sheen, and glitter in that family, in my opinion. Now you could say Kim, I think it's with her always neutral, wet kind of look. It's not the same as Khloe, being a big fan of like boobs highlighted, shimmery, glowy, figure-esque pieces. And I find Cancer Venuses also do not go for like the very slick, like clean girl aesthetic. They tend to want to look particularly feminine. I mean, Zendaya does have some androgynous or more menswear pieces, but like she tends to be very clearly very feminine in a lot of her clothes, and so I don't find that's a prevailing theme. Khloe's a good example of like the hyper femininity and the gorgeous bodicey and also very textured pieces. Leo Venus, not that I have it myself. Honestly, my outfit is so Leo Venus right now, just the level of extra. Leo Venus is theatrical, it is wild, it is big, and it is more is more. And funny enough, I find that people with Leo Venus or Mars often are very edgy, kind of like into metal music and metal fashion, which I think is interesting because if Leo is very playful and very much just like living life, you know, fun, play, light, I think the ultimate playfulness is like representing death when you're alive. But I just find that with a crazy amount of specificity is that the people I know that are also into like metal music, they're like metal artists, like they're always have heavy Leo, more than I've seen this so often. So Madonna is a great example of the more is more quality. I mean, her outfits are always theatrical, big hair, definitely going for overt beauty. I think there's some signs that go for nuanced beauty. Leo Venus is like big hair, long outfit, beautiful, just like they want more. I think Madonna's plastic surgery filler situation also shows the more is more like quality. No hate or anything like that. I don't give a fuck. But definitely kind of Leo can go over the top with the amount of things done. Selena Gomez is another good example. She tends to like dress pretty Leo with the amount of like flowiness, big, like hair tends to be quite big. Even her younger years when she was very young, she loved just to have this Leo warmth. Like there's a dressing up for every occasion that is quite Leonian, where it's not nuanced and it's not low key. It is not trying to be like clean girl aesthetic. It's trying to be more is more aesthetic. And finally, Amy Winehouse is, I think, a great example of the metal, edgy, dark version of Leo Venus, which is a lot of people with Leo Venus, because she did have the dark cat eye, but it was not goth in a way that like Scorpio would like smear it under their eyes. She didn't have the big eyeliner but up, the big hair, and a very feminine but very theatrical style. She, I think, is like the personification of Betty Boop, and like Betty Boop is super Leo Venus. So Leo Venus does tend to have like this vampy, kind of larger than life quality. Leo rules the cardiovascular system, which I don't think really shows up in fashion, but the big hair, the striking makeup, the theatrical qualities underlying all of it. Virgo Venus is very detail-oriented, very specific, with looking elegant, looking natural usually, and liking shape and structure to their outfits. So I find that they wear a lot of neutrals, a lot of shapewear, and usually you're not going over the top with theatrics. So Kim Kardashian, I think, is a great example of this. She literally owns Skims, a nude shapewear line, and the amount of specificity and detail in her outfits that is more mature than a Gemini Venus, but is very specific. I mean, she has the very like natural makeup. It's usually like a natural-esque smoky eye. Usually wearing neutrals, always has a bodice type shape. It's very particular and very intentional. And Kylie Jenner also has a Virgo Venus, so I don't think it's a coincidence that people often say Kylie is emulating Kim more than any other sister. I think Kylie, even if she's the youngest, like in that kind of categorization, she dresses very mature and very businessy when she's not like tits and ass out at the beach. So she's often dressing in a style that I could see Kim wearing, with the bodice, with the shapewear, with the neutrals, and with the very mature but very hot in the shapewear quality. I think Virgo Venus does it very well, where it's like you don't need to show a lot of skin always, but showing the body shape is very intentional. And Bella Hadid is a great Virgo Venus example as well, because she's going for like a natural off-duty model look most of the time, but you can tell the amount of effort and detail in her outfits is really strategic. And she has this innocence and this, like, I don't want to say little girl, but this like childish quality about the kinds of outfits she puts together. Not necessarily that she looks like a little girl, but like there's a lightness and a innocence about the way she dresses. And some of her outfits give me like 1700s maiden vibes, but I still think she kills it. It's the nuance, the detail, and the looking like fashionable rather than looking hot, I think is very Virgo Venus. Midway outfit change because I'm like going out to I'm going out to an event actually after this, and I was like, I don't actually want to wear the first outfit. I've worn this quite a few times, but like this is a good catch-all, like kind of, I mean, I'm gonna wear a bigger jacket like over this, but it's this red, you know, top that is barely a top, skirt, fishnets, the cute boots that I wear with like everything, and then my Virgo choker, which as of this video being out, these are for sale. You can get your rising sun, moon sign, whatever sign you want in a rhinestone choker with several different colors available. So Libra Venus is the other Venus sign where it's at home or very comfortable. And Libra Venuses are style icons. They have an eye for being, I don't want to say middle of the road as if it's average, but like Libra Venuses know how to make an outfit inconspicuous and make you think it just looks so pretty without realizing why it exactly looks pretty. They get proportions, balance, how to make things just all fit into a look. And they tend to be very like middle part, natural makeup, tend to be very androgynous in the way they dress. They wear a lot of menswear, but it's like very unassuming or not in your face. They're the masters of balance in a way that just works without you really realizing it. So Beyonce is a great example of this because even in her tour looks or her very like more theatrical looks, she goes towards neutrals, she goes towards gold, very earthy tones, and she tends to know what works for her, which is like the golden hair, the middle part, the natural highlighting kind of makeup, and a lot of her looks are just simply effortlessly beautiful. She's not like a Lady Gaga who's going for a huge like production every time. And I think Hailey Baldwin than Bieber is like the epitome of Venus and Libra, and she reminds me so much of my older sister who has so much in Libra and is such this style, and she's literally a stylist and like dresses like Hailey Bieber does. So I mean, Hailey Bieber does the whole like clean girl aesthetic, middle part, natural light brown hair, very just like effortless beauty kind of thing, which is the opposite of like my kind of aesthetic, but I love this kind of aesthetic where it's like, even if it took a lot of effort, it looks very effortless and very natural. And then also with Venus and Libra's Hilary Duff, like over the years, Hilary Duff has kind of looked the exact same with what works for her. And it's so girl next door effortless, which is what I keep saying with Libra Venus. It is like the blonde, kind of brown blonde hair. It's the looks that are just like, could be in any film as like the pretty popular girl ever. And over the years, it's like, it's worked for her and she keeps that exact balance. Scorpio Venus, as we can probably all assume, tends to be vampy, dark, edgy, and have high contrast going on. So even if you think you're the most basic, vanilla, cute aesthetic, I know you are listening to Deftones and smearing black eyeliner underneath your eyes. Like Venus and Scorpio cannot hide the darkness of their soul. Even if they don't actually have darkness in their soul, their aesthetic at least seems like it. So people that have nothing else in Scorpio besides Venus and Scorpio can dress so intimidating, but in actuality, they're pretty nice people. So Avril Lavigne is a great example of this contrast because she does look like super like cute, delicate just on her own, but then her actual style is quite edgy. She has the dark eyes. She always has like the blonde, black, sometimes pink hair. It's very iconic with the contrast. Cardi B, I find, has some edgy ass looks. Like she has a vampy style to her. And she tends to have, like with Scorpio Venus, they tend to have straight hair. Like I tend to see their hair being very pin straight, or at least that's how they generally style it. And Cardi B tends to have that very slick hair, that very like, I think a lot of her looks are very vampy. And then also Winona Ryder has Venus in Scorpio. She's a great example of the more natural vampiness, or just naturally her dark hair, her light skin, wearing a lot of black, white, red. It looks very more like elegant Venus in Scorpio, but that contrast definitely stands out. Venus in Sag is the ultimate like class clown or cosplay placement because they tend to be so playful, so characteristic with their outfits, and their outfits tend to be a parody, a joke, a reference. There's a fantasy quality to Venus in Sag that is different than other Venus placements, which can be fun but not quite as imaginative or little kiddish. I think Katy Perry is a perfect example of this. Her whole aesthetic is so playful, and I wouldn't say theatrical like Madonna with Venus and Leo, more like she's wearing, you know, the cupcake bra thing. She's often wearing clown-like things. And even if it's elegant and beautiful, it is quite cartoonish. Billie Eilish is an example of Venus in Sag, and she ranges from the really oversized clothing to some of the more lingerie style pieces, but there tends to be a parody, a joke, a cultural like play on something going on that is indicative of this like it's not cosplay in the way she's doing it, but is definitely quite playful. Nicki Minaj, who I love, I am a Nicki fan. She is a great example of this too, because the amount of like the light pinks with her and Katy Perry that stand out as super Venus and Sag. It's not trying to be super like cutting edge high fashion. It's trying to be playful, eye-catching. It is trying to be this like cultural joke zeitgeist moment, and she definitely rocks it. Venus in Cap, similar to Scorpio, has that edge. Like Venus in Cap definitely has quite an emo quality. The difference is that it's emo but old money. Venus in Cap looks mature, it tends to look very polished, even if they're trying to be edgy. And I find that Miley Cyrus is a good example of this because Miley has this like rock star edginess, but she looks elegant in a lot of her looks. She looks like this beautiful old money elegance with the way that she styles her hair. She had her short hair like a decade ago, and I remember how like appalling that was to people, but like nowadays it's like whatever, celebrities do that. But she has this rocker old money aesthetic, which I think is prominent with Venus and Cap, and they tend to also go for statement pieces rather than very busy pieces. You're not gonna see like the most prints or the most just like extravagance, but you might see a lot of industrial pieces and metal actually on them. Britney Spears is an example of this, or even with her like 90s, early 2000s flamboyance with some of those looks at the time. I would say the all denim look with Justin was a little bit of an old money aesthetic. But like just the way there's an elegance, there is an earthiness, and she does tend to wear more striking colors rather than very complicated pieces. And finally, Kesha is also Venus in Capricorn, and she definitely has that vampy rock star quality, but she is like earthy beauty. She's not really like Avril, where there's this very like slick, straight, kind of very polished look. There's much more of this grounded, like accessorized aesthetic that Venus in Cap tends to have. Venus in Aquarius tends to be non-conformist, unconventional, and structured. They love their menswear, they like sharp pieces, and they prefer things to have edge rather than like softness. They tend to like the distinct and the long and lean look as well. So Taylor Swift is an amazing example of this. She tends to dress quite structured, quite straight, and in a way that is slightly unconventional. She likes her pops of color, her statement pieces. There's a futuristic quality I find to Aquarius as well. Paris Hilton, another very good example of this, tends to be edgy, simple statement pieces, a little bit of a menswear thing kind of going on in some instances, but futuristic. I think there's a futuristic alien quality to the way that Aquarius Venus dresses that is unmistakable. Kate Moss also has an Aquarius Venus. And even more than menswear with her, I just think that the very simple, like long lean, you can say heroin chic, I don't think it really matters. There's other people with Aquarius Venus, not with her body type, that dress like this. There's an alien, futuristic, simplistic quality to Aquarius Venus that is sharp. It is not too frilly and not too bodicey or feminine, but very like elegant. And finally, Pisces Venus, which is the sign of Venus's exaltation. So Venus and Pisces people tend to have great style, given that Venus is so naturally at home in Pisces. It tends to be elegant, it tends to be effortless, it tends to be like the old Hollywood glamour is super Venus in Pisces, and it's very romantic. Now, Emma Watson is a great example of this because her looks are very feminine, very delicate. I wouldn't call them necessarily old money or new money, though I would lean old money, I would say overall they're simply more romantic and very, very lovely. They're not trying to be edgy, they're not trying to be provocative, but they're very youthful and very dreamy. Also with the Venus in Pisces is Kristen Stewart, and I think this shows some of the more, like, she has some menswear androgynous looks, but it's always beautiful and it's always romantic. Like, that's the way that I would describe this, is that it's generally a look that is cute. I think that Venus and Pisces can dress in a way that makes them look small a lot of the time, and Kristen's a good example of like the small pieces that tend to be like, they don't necessarily look long, but they look very cute, very like, even like body type romantic. If you know like the Kibby body types, I feel like they dress in that way with that essence. And then finally, Kourtney Kardashian also has Venus in Pisces. And this is another example of the very small, very cute romantic style pieces where she's like the least extreme Kardashian kind of thing. I feel like she dresses in a way that's like, you could see that at like a mom wearing that. You could see that a teenager wearing that. She's not super like shapeweary like Kim, even though she does have her moments. She's not super businessy like Kylie, and she's not the same as Khloe with the extravagance. She dresses very like romantic and very beautiful. So I hope that this helps you with the Venus signs and what to expect with the Venus sign aesthetics. Comment down below your thoughts, how you feel about this, if you agree, you disagree, if you have any like issues or other comments about what I'm saying. Let me know your Venus sign, how you dress down below, because I bet there's a lot of you that are upset or feel like you need to speak on your Venus sign. As a Venus and Leo, I'm signing out. If you want to see my courses, daily horoscopes, or have a reading with me, I also offer that down below. So yeah, take care, and I will see you in the next one.
Oh, but there is one thing you're all